So those are going to be the tricks to this. So they need to be in order. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And all of them need to be represented. Only if there's a gap, I guess I should say that. We don't need to put a 0 in, if there was no constant there, we would need to put a 0 in the constant. Everybody okie dokie with that? All right. Okay. So, okay. Dividend. Dividend is the thing we're trying to break up. The divisor is what's breaking it up. So if I over here have 12 divided by 3, 12 is the dividend, 3 is the divisor, and the answer is, and that is called, okay. So this is your thing being broken up, and this is the type of groups you're making. So dividend is the thing broken up, divisor is the type of group that you're breaking it up. Okay, so this is my thing I'm trying to break up. So this is my dividend, and I'm breaking it up by x minus 2's. So doing synthetic division, what does synthetic mean? Think of synthetic material. It's man-made, not naturally occurring, right? It's got all kinds of wonderful properties to it that we've made work. So synthetic division is the same thing. I'm not showing you all the steps. We're doing it the quick ways. It's got lots of properties, but it's still going to get us to a beautiful answer, and we're going to work with doing it. So synthetic just means you're not showing all the detailed steps. If you really want to learn long division, I will teach you. So what you do with the divisor is you just take the constant from it. Okay? That gets put in as -2. So you're going to draw an L-shaped box. You're going to draw this L-shaped box. The coefficients of the dividend go on the top line. So those go in first. Remember, they have to be in order, and all the degrees have to be represented. So we would have 6x cubed, so the 6 goes here, it's positive, minus 19 squared, so it's -19, plus 16x, 16 goes here, and minus 4 goes there. So that's x to the exponent 0, right? We talked about that before. Okay, here comes the synthetic part. You just need to know how to do this. First step, the 6 gets carried down. Got it? You just drop it down. Now you're going to do some multiplying. -2 times by +6 gives me a -12. Okay? And then, and subtract. That's what I'm trying to find there. You're subtracting these. So -19 minus a -12 leaves you with a -7. A -2. Now, -2 times -7 gives me the +14. 16 minus +14 gives me the +2. -2 times by the +2 gives me the -4. -4 minus the -4 gives me 0. So you work backwards. When you get all this done, you work backwards. This, the last one on the far right-hand side, is always your remainder. Constant, so constant x squared. So the quotient is 6x squared minus 7x plus 2 no remainder. Because the remainder was 0. Okay, you guys ready?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do this one. I'm looking at this. What do you see the problem is immediately with my dividend? No Q. Okay, brilliant. So I make my L shape. So what's the numerical coefficient on x to the exponent of 4? 1. Do I have x cubed? No, you told me I didn't. So that gets represented by a 0. I have no x cubed. Now next, I'm going to have -10. Next, I'm going to have -2. And then I'm going to finish with a +4. So what is my divisor? What goes on the outside here? +3, because we just take it from there. So +3. And what are we doing between this line and the new line I'm putting in here? What are we going to do with them? We're going to subtract them. Sometimes I don't even put that. I just know I have to subtract them. So don't feel like you have to put the subtract sign, but you need to know that you do it. In your textbook, it does it a different way if you're looking at the examples. They solve this out, they make this a -3, and then they add them. Works just the same, but I would suggest you stick to one method so that you don't confuse yourself. Okay, what is the first step of synthetic division? What happens to that 1? Drops all the way down. So there's my 1. So now I go 3 times 1 gives me 3. So I have 0 subtract 3. -3. So now I have 3 times -3, -9. So I'm going to have -10 subtract and -9, -1. This is your knowledge of integers and how easily you can do it in your head. Some people might say, oh, -19. That would be incorrect. 3 times by -1 is -3. -2 minus a -3 is a +1. 3 times 1 is 3. Whew, I get a remainder this time. Pardon? Yeah, remainder theorem is coming up next. Dr. Carson of us on page 4. Yeah. Okay. That's like an add-on to this. So we always work from the far right-hand side. This is my remainder. This is my constant. This is my x. This is my x squared. This is my x cubed. You will always have one less degree than your dividend. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so if your dividend has an exponent of 4, you can expect your quotient to have an exponent of 3. If it's an exponent of 10 here, it should be 9. Make sense, everybody? Okay. All right, so with that being said, we have a remainder, so it's a little bit different. So I'm going to have x cubed minus 3x squared minus x plus 1. And how we represent the remainder is, it's the thing that's left over. Okay, it's the thing that didn't fit anywhere. So it would be plus 1 over x plus 3. Because this didn't quite fully fit into the dividend. It had a leftover. I need to make a statement about this. How come? It has a variable on the bottom, so I need to make a non-permissible value statement. What would that be? X cannot equal -3. So this would be my entire answer. Lots of people forget that. Do you remember in elementary we used to go, like if I had 13 divided by 2, how many times does 2 go into 13? 6. And what am I left with? 1, and we used to do this. Remainder of 1. Remember that? Nice. So that's all cool. But really, that's 13 divided by 2. 6.5. So it's my remainder of 1 divided by the divisor. There you go. So back in the day when we were at the hour, we were kind of there. Now we're it only takes 30 to figure out what you were actually doing, mathematically speaking. Okay? So that's why it is. If we went 16 or 13 divided by 3, what would my answer be? 16 divided by 3, or 13 divided by 3. How many times does 3 go into 13? How many times? 4. What's left over? And if you did that, if you went 13 divided by 3 in your calculator, you're going to get 4.333 repeating, right? So all it is taking the divisor and dividing it. Okay, you guys do the next one. I'm too pretty. So you got 2 minutes. So not terrible. Not terrible. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. All right. So pieces of information that you need to know about this. And now we're going to do a remainder here. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. So finding the remainder, you can do synthetic. Okay, I need to stress this. You can always fall back to your synthetic division, find the remainder. A lot of people still do that. It's not that big of a deal. It's like this is just another quicker way to do it. But if this doesn't make sense to you, just go back and divide synthetically. Like that's not that hard. You guys can all figure out what the remainder is. So with that being said, this is kind of like you think you made it? Okay. So the remainder theorem is when I ask you, find the remainder. If I were to divide these, what would the remainder be? Can you do that? This is going to come in handy a little bit later when I'm asking you to factor something. So if I say find the remainder, what I want you to do is step 1, find the NPV. What's the NPV? Is it over here or is it over here? Dividend or divisor? Divisor. So in this case, it's x equals -3. Then all I want you to do, number 2, plug in NPV into dividend. Step 3, solve. So when you do that, like if I sub in -3 here into my dividend, don't worry about the order, don't worry about all the degrees being there. This is why it's a little bit easier. You just sub it directly into your dividend. You don't need to put in order or anything. Do the math, and what's left over, this is the remainder. That's your remainder. So if I ask you just to find the remainder, you can use the remainder here. Easy peasy.
Well, you could use the other one.
You totally could use the other one if you want.
They were
But
supposed
you're-
to use the other one.
I know, but you're going to find out why this is going to come in handy when I start asking you to factor big things. Okay? All right, so find the remainder. Step 1, what do we do? Find the MPVs. What's the MPV? X -1. What do I do now? Substitute. So I am finding after -1, so -1. I think I would give myself an easy question. +1 plus 2, because this is going to be a -1. -1 comes by a +2, and then we're going to have a negative number, and they're going to be subtracting the +2 back. Then the math. So my remainder is going to be there's no remainder. Remainder 0. This is gonna be important, by the way, this will come back to time here. Okay, you guys do part B.